to Jake Gensel. This was a beautiful goal. Jake Gensel passed it to Point passed it to Gonzalez, and Gonzalez just tipped it over Grubauer's shoulder, and it was 1-0 Tampa Bay. And then late in the first period, it was Nikita Kucherov on a slap shot at a beautiful goal, and that made it 2-0. And then Nikita Kucherov scored again, making it 3-0. And then Seattle started riding back a bit. Bobby McMahon scored a goal, a nice one. Matty Benner, who's injured. The Kings scored with Jordan Everly and Grubauer. They called me. And then the third period was all Tampa Bay. Only one empty there in the period. Anthony Cirelli scored early on at high school for him. That was his 16th. And Brandon Hagel got his 31st of the year. And then Nikita Kucherov gets a hat trick and scores the other in Tampa Bay won 6-2 a pretty dominant win. They outshot Seattle by 8-14. Had less hits and equal penalty minutes, one more face-off. But a solid game and a good win for a team looking for points and needing a good victory. Then they traveled up to the city just north of Seattle, Vancouver, 2 nights later, and they got another 6-2 win. This game again was dominant for Tampa Bay. Vancouver, a very struggling team, somehow still in the playoff push because of how bad the Western Conference is. And the Lightning jumped out to a 4-0 lead in this game after jumping out to a 3-0 lead in the game before. And Jake Gensel scored early on in this one, a nice shot from him. Ryan McDonough get the assist. Then Darren Radish on a slap shot scores in the beginning of the second period, 49 seconds in. And then Yanni Gorg gets another one, his 9th goal of the year. That was Radish against Gensel, by the way. The Lightning had 3 third-goal scores. And then Nikita Kucherov made it 4-0. And this was a good first half of this year. 3 goals in the first 5 minutes. Lightning really put the pressure on Vancouver. And then Liam Olderson scored, and then Carlson scored for Vancouver, making it 4-2. But Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel made it 6-2, and that was it for the goals department. Another good, solid victory for Tampa Bay. 31 shots on goal, 21 shots for Vancouver, 12 hits with 25. That is that case I talked about videos ago that we've done more. And a very penalty-free game, 4 minutes for the Lightning, 2 minutes, and then face-offs were 52% to 44% of Tampa Bay. And this is just two teams that are completely opposite ends of the Buffalo Lightning. Are 4 points behind Buffalo for first place with a game in hand. 2 games in hand, starting with 15 points and then the Lightning were in Edmonton, the first city in Alberta, Canada, and it was another multi-goal win for Tampa Bay. And this game was very, very interesting. Shots very even, and hits again. The losing team were behind. But let's hop right in. Connor McDavid scores early and late in the first period, 1-0, and then the Lightning come into the second period and score 3 goals. Anthony Cirelli gets his 18th, Jake Gensel with his 31st, and then Nikita Kucherov scores a short-handed goal. Like, that is just mind-boggling that Nikita Kucherov got a short-handed goal. He normally is not on the short-handed unit. He's not on unit, and it made it 3-1, and then Josh Smatsky made it 3-2, and then Nikita Kucherov made it 4-2, and 5-2. And shots again pretty even, 28 to 27, 11 hits for the Lightning, 28. I'm not liking that they're not as physical as they have been in a lot of 15, but a good win out in Edmonton. And then last night on a second half of back-to-back, they were in the other city in Alberta, Calgary, against a struggling Flames team who's desperate for points, trying to make a playoff push. I don't really know ideal, very good for Tampa Bay. And Ryan McDonough scores first, and at around the 8-minute mark, a nice shot from him. Gage Gonzalez gets the assist, and Victor Olofsson made it 1-1. And then not even 30 seconds later, Morgan Crawford was 2-1, and these were the back goals. You can't skip the back goals. Jockeying for playoff spots with Harry Heisman, Leafs, which I'll get to in a second, and then Michaela back. And it seemed very like a team wasn't ready to play. A team like Calgary, which you can't beat. Calgary, they light opponent, and then Darren Raddysh and Pontus Holmberg score in back-to-back. One in the second, one in the third, and then Ryan Stone scores 46 seconds in overtime to win it for Calgary. And it's just that case where if you don't win the opening face-off, you don't score. Get the puck. Shots in this game were 35 for Tampa Bay, 25 for Calgary, 16 minutes and 23 seconds a bit. And no penalty minutes for Tampa Bay. They're never short-handed, and that is ideal. But now we are going to get into the wild rankings that this. I don't know, that was a quick breakdown of each game. Really not much to talk about because those games were wild. I just wanted to recap these games for you. But looking at this game, it is not getting any better for Tampa Bay. They are 5 points up on Montreal, which is huge, with 2 games in hand on Buffalo and a lot behind them. Right now, Toronto's at the bottom of the division with 71 points, which is shocking. But just looking at the Eastern Conference, you got Carolina in first with 96 points, Buffalo in second with 95 points, obviously the Lightning in third. Then you got Montreal, the Boston Bruins, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and then New York and Detroit. And these are your playoff teams, because you got your 1 seed in the Metropolitan with Carolina, your 2 seed in the Metropolitan with Pittsburgh, and a 3 seed in the Metropolitan with Columbus. And then for the Atlantic, you have Buffalo in the 1 seed, Tampa Bay in the 2 seed, Montreal in the 3 seed, and then for the wild card is Boston right now, even though they're ahead of 3 teams that are actually higher than them, which is just wild, and it's insane. It actually is insane how tight this race has become out in the Eastern Conference, because everyone is separated by like 2 or 3 points, and it's gonna be these final spots they're jockeying. I feel very comfortable about where the Lightning are. They're 5 points ahead of the team behind them, and then even 7 points out of a playoff spot. So it is a very interesting position to be in, and it's changing every night. The Lightning play Minnesota tomorrow night, and we'll obviously have a recap, more in-depth recap. I'm sorry to recap. This video wasn't as in-depth as we normally go into the games, but these games, again, were a little while ago. Some of them were today of last week. So I just want to get these recaps out there. Make sure I got my thoughts on these games. So I thought the Lightning played very well in this West Coast road trip. Taking 7 of 8 points is exactly what you want to do, and it's just a good thing to do. You're playing some bad teams or some weaker teams than you, and good wins for the Lightning, and just good way to play coming down the stretch when you have a solid schedule, not a too tough schedule left. I mean, they've got the Wild on tomorrow. You got the Wild tomorrow, but then you've got Seattle again, Ottawa, Nashville, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Boston, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, Detroit, and New York. So teams you need to beat if you want to make the playoffs. And a lot of home games. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 home games in a row, and then they finish off on a big road trip through the Eastern Conference, through the Atlantic. They play Boston twice, they play Ottawa, and they play Montreal. It's just some big games coming up that'll really decide the division. And if the Lightning want to take first place, this is the chance to do it, and maybe even win that feared President's Trophy that team that wins it never ends up doing well. But that's going to do it for a recap of the West Coast road trip the Lightning had. They went 3-0-1 on the road trip, a solid road trip for Tampa Bay, and I thought they played very well. If you If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video.